Blinding pain seared through Prince Nox's skull as his ship lurched out of hyperwarp at the edge of the Sol system. He gripped the control console, steadying himself, forcing back the bile rising in his throat. There was no time for weakness. The Zorgoth were coming. If he failed here, the Iconian Empire was doomed. Emperor Vakonesh's orders echoed in Nox's mind. The humans are our last hope. We need their weapons, their ships, their psychic soldiers. If the rumors are true, you must convince them to join us against the Zorgoth. Do whatever it takes. Our survival depends on it. Nox had scoffed at first. These primates, barely a century from their first pitiful space flights, their aid, preposterous. Then he saw the intelligence reports. Human warships appearing as if from nowhere to crush a Phylaxian invasion fleet. Impossible new alloys, energy weapons, propulsion systems beyond anything the mighty Iconian Empire wielded, and the whispers of psionic warriors that turned battles with a thought. Nox surveyed the space around Earth with growing unease. It should have been a simple primitive system, a handful of stations, a few corvettes on patrol. Instead, sleek dreadnoughts prowled the void. Orbital bastions bristled with guns. How had the humans advanced so far so fast? His musings were cut short by a terse hail across all frequencies. Unknown vessel, this is the TSF Athena. Identify yourself immediately or be fired upon. This is your only warning. Nox swallowed hard. So it began. The humans were already suspicious, hostile even. Everything depended on what he did next. The future of his people, his empire, all hanging by a thread. Nox took a deep breath and opened the channel. Time to meet the humans, and pray to the gods they would listen before it was too late. Nox stepped through the airlock into the TSF Athena, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. A phalanx of armored marines greeted him, weapons trained on his chest. Their leader, a grizzled man with captain's bars on his collar, nodded curtly. "I'm Captain Henderson. Come with me, and no sudden moves." The captain led Nox through gleaming corridors to a spacious conference room where a group of stern-faced humans awaited. Henderson made brief introductions. Admiral Vance, commander of Earth's space fleet, Senator Olivia Rodriguez, and a handful of other high-ranking military officers and government officials. Nox wasted no time. "I come bearing grave news. The Iconian Empire faces an existential threat, the Zorgoth. They are an enemy unlike any we have faced before. Powerful, ruthless, bent on our annihilation. We need your help." He presented his evidence, sensor logs of Zorgoth ships, reports of their lightning attacks, chilling images of worlds scoured of life. The humans listened, some with skepticism, others with growing alarm. Admiral Vance leaned forward, eyes glinting. "It seems to me this Zorgoth threat presents an opportunity. If we aid your empire now, surely you would be willing to share your advanced technology as fair compensation." Senator Rodriguez cut in sharply. "Admiral, need I remind you of what happened the last time we entangled ourselves in an alien war? Millions dead, our colonies in ruins. We barely survived. I urge caution." The room erupted into argument. Military officers siding with Vance, civilians with Rodriguez. Nox tried to interject to emphasize the direness of the situation, but the humans seemed more concerned with their own agendas. Suddenly, a piercing alarm cut through the debate. The room fell silent as a holographic display snapped into focus above the table. It was Emperor Vakonesh himself, resplendent in his battle armor, face grim. "Prince Nox, I pray you have secured the humans' aid, for the Zorgoth have launched a surprise attack. They have broken through our frontier defenses. Even now, I lead the bulk of our fleet to make a last stand at Telos Prime. If we fall, the core worlds will be defenseless." Nox felt his blood run cold. He turned to the humans, imploring, "Please, we need your ships, your weapons, now. Dispatch a fleet to bolster our defenses. Let me remain here to continue forging our alliance. Together we may yet turn the tide." The human leaders looked to each other, torn. Admiral Vance stood abruptly. "There's no time for debate. I'm dispatching our task force to the Iconian frontier immediately. Better we fight the Zorgoth there than over our own skies. Senator, you and the others can argue the politics. I'll win us this war." Ignoring the others' objections, Vance strode from the room, already barking orders into his comm. Knox felt a surge of hope. The humans were divided, but at least some of them recognized the necessity of action. As the conference dissolved into a din of argument and recrimination, Knox slipped away, mind racing. He would need allies here on Earth to navigate these treacherous political waters. He thought of the brilliant xenoanthropologist whose work he had studied, Dr. Eliza Novak. Her unconventional theories on cross-species cooperation had earned her the ire of the scientific establishment. But to Knox, they represented a path forward, a radical vision for a new era of partnership between Iconian and human. He had to find her, convince her to join his cause. Together they could sway the minds of the intransigent, lay the foundation for a true alliance. But even as he formed his plans, a cold dread crept in. The reports from the front grew more dire by the hour. The Zorgoth were wielding weapons beyond even Iconian science, devastating energies that rent the very fabric of space. The Terran reinforcements would help, but how long could they last against such might? Knox quickened his pace through the labyrinthine passages of the Athena. There was no time to waste. The battle for the Iconian Empire had begun, and with it, the battle for humanity's future. He could only pray they were not too late. Knox's footsteps echoed through the empty corridors of the Athena as he made his way to the shuttle bay. His mind raced, cataloging potential allies and strategies. Dr. Eliza Novak's research could be the key to bridging the gap between their species. He had to find her. Hours later, Knox stood in Dr. Novak's cluttered office at the Xenological Institute. The walls were covered in star charts and alien anatomical diagrams. Dr. Novak herself was a slight woman with vibrant green eyes that sparkled with curiosity as she studied the Iconian prints. "Your theories on cross-species cooperation are revolutionary," Knox said, gesturing to a nearby holographic display. "We need that vision now more than ever." Dr. Novak nodded, her expression grave. "The Zorgoth threat changes everything. We can't afford to let fear and mistrust divide us." Together they embarked on a whirlwind tour of Earth. News studios, government buildings, and corporate boardrooms became their battlefield as they fought to sway hearts and minds. On the global news network, Knox shared harrowing footage of Zorgoth attacks. "This is the face of our enemy," he said, his voice steady as images of burning worlds filled the screen. "They will not stop with the Iconian Empire. Earth is next." Dr. Novak addressed the United Earth Congress, her passion evident in every word. "An alliance with the Iconians offers us unprecedented opportunities for scientific advancement. Think of the medical breakthroughs, the technological leaps forward. We stand on the brink of a new era of discovery and innovation." Public opinion began to shift. Crowds gathered in cities across the globe, waving banners that proclaimed, "Earth stands with Iconia and united against the Zorgoth." But opposition remained fierce. Senator Rodriguez's voice boomed through the halls of Congress. "We cannot trust these aliens. They come begging for help now, but what will they demand once the crisis has passed? Our resources? Our autonomy? We must protect Earth's interests first." With time running out, Knox knew he needed a decisive move. He approached Admiral Vance with a daring plan. "A covert mission behind enemy lines," Knox explained. "To witness the true scope of the Zorgoth threat, bring your most influential leaders, even those who oppose us." Days later, a cloaked Iconian vessel slipped through the quantum folds of space. On board, Admiral Vance, Senator Rodriguez, and President Feldman watched uneasily as stars streaked past. They emerged near a secret Iconian listening post on the fringes of Zorgoth-controlled space. What they saw left them stunned into silence. A vast armada of Zorgoth ships stretched as far as the eye could see. Massive, dark structures that defied description drifted among them, the planet-killer dreadnoughts. "My God," President Feldman whispered, his face ashen. Intercepted Zorgoth transmissions filled the air, their harsh, guttural language translated by the ship's computers. The true horror of their plans became clear. the systematic extermination of all other sentient life in the galaxy. Senator Rodriguez slumped in her chair, the fight gone out of her. "I was wrong," she said softly. "We have no choice. We must stand together." The mood on Earth was somber but resolute as President Feldman signed the formal alliance with the Iconian Empire. Nox pledged to share advanced Iconian technology, including FTL drives and energy weapons beyond humanity's wildest dreams. Dr. Novak beamed as she announced a series of joint human-Iconian research initiatives. "Today, we take the first steps towards a brighter future for both our peoples," she declared. The celebration was cut short by an urgent transmission from the front. Admiral Chen's grim face filled the view screens. "The Zorgoth dreadnoughts, they're unstoppable," he reported, his voice tight with strain. "Our weapons barely scratch them. We can't hold out much longer." Nox felt the weight of countless lives on his shoulders. He turned to the assembled human leaders, his eyes blazing with perseverance. "There may yet be hope," he said. "Our spies have uncovered a potential weakness in the dreadnought's shielding. If we can exploit it..." Dr. Novak was already pulling up schematics on her datapad. "We'll need to combine Iconian and human sciences in ways never before attempted," she mused. "Then we'd better get to work," President Feldman said grimly. "The fate of two civilizations, perhaps the entire galaxy, depends on it." As they hurried towards the research labs, the distant rumble of factories retooling for war echoed across the city. Earth was mobilizing, but would it be enough? The Zorgoth armada loomed ever closer, and time was running out. The Celestiar's war room buzzed with tension as Prince Nox and Dr. Eliza Novak stepped through the doors. Holograms of the combined Terran-Iconian fleets flickered above the central table, a sea of blue and green markers dwarfed by the looming red mass of the Zorgoth armada. Admiral Zillion's mandibles clicked in irritation as he regarded the newcomers. "Your Highness, with all due respect, we have no time for untested theories. The Zorgoth advance..." "May be halted," Nox interrupted, his voice steady. "Dr. Novak and I have uncovered a potential weakness in their planet killer's shielding." Skeptical murmurs rippled through the assembled Iconian tacticians. Admiral Vance leaned forward, his weathered face etched with cautious interest. "Go on." Dr. Novak activated a holographic display showing schematics of a Zorgoth dreadnought. "Their shields operate on a fluctuating frequency. If we can pinpoint the precise moments of vulnerability..." "Impossible," Zillion scoffed. "Our sensors can't penetrate their defenses long enough to..." "Ours can't," a new voice cut in. Captain Thomas Jennings, Vance's former second-in-command, stepped forward. "But Terran stealth fighters might just pull it off." Vance nodded grimly. "It's a long shot, but right now that's all we've got." Hours later, the combined fleet lay in wait near a cluster of lifeless systems. Nox stood on the Celestiar's bridge, hands clasped behind his back as he watched the swirling quantum eddies of hyperspace. A proximity alarm blared. "Zorgoth signatures detected," an officer called out. Reality tore open as the enemy warped in, a splinter group, but formidable nonetheless. Massive dreadnoughts loomed at the center of the Zorgoth formation, flanked by swarms of smaller craft. "Now!" Vance's voice crackled over the comms. A dozen Terran stealth fighters shimmered into view, streaking towards the Zorgoth line. Nox watched in awe as the nimble craft wove between bursts of sickly green energy, their advanced cloaking tech keeping them one step ahead of the enemy's targeting systems. But not for long. One by one, the fighters winked out of existence, consumed by the Zorgoth's relentless firepower. Nox's fists clenched as the casualties mounted. "We have the data," Jennings' triumphant shout filled the bridge. "Transmitting targeting solutions now." The Celestiar shuddered as its main guns unleashed a barrage of specialized warheads. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a dreadnought's shields flickered and died. "All ships, concentrate fire," Vance ordered. The void lit up with the combined might of two civilizations. Caught off guard, the Zorgoth formation crumbled under the onslaught. As the last enemy ship exploded in a silent flower of flame, a ragged cheer went up across the Allied fleet. The elation was short-lived. "Your Highness," An Iconian officer approached, his eyes downcast. Emperor Vakonesh's flagship. It's been heavily damaged. We've lost contact. Nox felt the weight of an empire settle on his shoulders. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. What's the status of our forces? The reports came in, each bleaker than the last. Iconian casualties were devastating. The Terran fleet had fared better, but was still a pale shadow of its former strength. And somewhere out there, the main Zorgoth armada was closing in. There may be one last option, Nox said quietly. He turned to face the assembled leaders, his expression grim. The Celestian Forge. Zillion's eyes widened in shock. Absolutely not. The risks are less than certain annihilation, Nox countered. He outlined the ancient superweapons capabilities, watching comprehension dawn on human and Iconian faces alike. A fleet of drones, Vance mused. It could give us the numbers we need. Or destroy us all, Zillion warned. Dr. Novak stepped forward, her eyes blazing with purpose. We've come too far to give up now. I say we do it. The debate raged on, but deep down, they all knew there was no real choice. As reports of Zorgoth attacks on nearby colonies flooded in, the decision was made. Nox found himself aboard a strike team shuttle, flanked by Dr. Novak and Captain Jennings. They rocketed towards a distant, unremarkable system, home to one of the greatest secrets in Iconian history. Remember, Nox cautioned as they approached a desolate moon, the forge has been dormant for millennia. We have no idea what we'll find down there. Jennings checked his weapon, a ghost of a smile on his face. Well then, Your Highness, let's go make some history. History, Jennings quipped, his fingers dancing over the shuttle's controls as they descended towards the moon's pockmarked surface. The craft touched down with a gentle thud, kicking up a cloud of gray dust. As the airlock cycled, Nox's suit sensors registered the harsh, airless environment beyond. Stay alert, he warned, activating his plasma rifle. The forge's defenses may still be operational. They moved swiftly across the lunar landscape, boots crunching on regolith. A massive structure loomed ahead, a jagged spire of obsidian-like material that seemed to drink in the starlight. Dr. Novak's eyes widened behind her faceplate. Incredible. The material properties alone. Her words were cut short as the ground beneath them trembled. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface, and suddenly they were falling. Nox's heart raced as they plummeted through darkness. Emergency thrusters flared to life, slowing their descent. They landed hard on a metallic floor, the impact rattling their bones. Dim lights flickered to life, revealing a cavernous chamber filled with strange angular machinery. At its center stood a towering obelisk, covered in pulsing circuitry. The forge's core, Nox breathed. A hail of energy bolts suddenly erupted from the shadows. Automated defense drones swarmed towards them, their weapons blazing. Cover! Jennings shouted, diving behind a nearby console. Nox and Novak scrambled for shelter as the air filled with sizzling plasma. Returning fire, they slowly fought their way towards the central obelisk. We need to reach those control nodes, Nox called out, gesturing to a bank of crystalline interfaces near the core. Novak nodded grimly. I'll draw their fire. You make the run. Before Nox could protest, she darted from cover, unleashing a barrage that dropped several drones. He sprinted for the controls, feeling energy bolts whistle past his helmet. Reaching the interface, Nox's fingers flew across the alien console. Ancient Iconian glyphs blazed to life beneath his touch. The chamber shuddered as long-dormant systems surged with power. A deafening roar filled the air as the forge awakened. The drones clattered lifelessly to the floor, their power cut off at the source. It's online, Nox announced, his voice tight with a mixture of relief and dread. But there's a problem. The main fabricators are damaged. We won't be able to produce the number of drones we need. Jennings cursed, kicking a fallen automaton. So we came all this way for nothing? Dr. Novak's eyes gleamed with sudden inspiration. Maybe not. Your Highness, what about the Forge's other capabilities? The legends spoke of... The quantum warhead, Nox finished, his expression grim. It was never meant to be used. The risks are catastrophic. More catastrophic than the Zorgoth wiping us out? Jennings countered. Before Knox could respond, his comms crackled to life. Admiral Vance's voice came through, strained and desperate. Your Highness, we're under heavy attack. Zorgoth reinforcements have arrived in force. We can't hold them back much longer. Knox's mind raced, weighing impossible choices. He looked at his companions, seeing his own fear and grit mirrored in their eyes. Ready the forge, he said quietly. We're going to build a black hole. As alarms blared throughout the facility, Knox input the final command sequence. The obelisk pulsed with otherworldly energy, and he felt the weight of two civilizations' hopes settle upon his shoulders. They raced back to their shuttle, the moon quaking beneath their feet as the forge roared to life behind them. As they lifted off, Knox's gaze was drawn to the swirling vortex of quantum energy forming above the forge. Their audacious attempt had begun, but would it be enough to stem the Zorgoth tide?
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.